but we've got the Dragon on Dragon matchup here.
Just saw Gerry's list. It looked very sweet, and I just covered a lot of the Mardu deck from Constructed Resources. Just finished recording, so I'm very familiar with that deck as well.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a very resourceful cast here. So, who do you like in this matchup? Just looking at this, just looking at the deck list. You know, the Mardu deck versus the All Dragons and Mana deck.
That's a good question. I think you noted very nicely a Goblin Rebel Master aggressive draw is going to be tough to deal with. The Mardu deck is sweet, but it's not like super good against dragons. Crackling Doom, of course, one of the best answers to something like Thunderbird Regent and Storm Dragon. So the answer that a lot of the white decks don't actually have. And let's see, look at these opening hands. Who's on the play? This is too small.
Looks like Gerry's on the play here, and he's on the play with two drop into 3-drop. Though Brad has double Draconic Roar, so double Draconic Roar into Rabble Master is kind of the ideal start for Brad.
Oh yeah, just basically like he even has the dragon that has haste to top off the curve and make sure that the Draconic Roar is going to be full Searing Blazes. So,
he's got. This I would say Brad's in a pretty commanding spot here just from the beginning, though. Once he draws Kolagun's command, that would be even amplified.
True. Do we have them on hold, right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it looks like they're starting here. So clearly Gerry's going to scry lands to the top. There are not a whole lot of spells you would keep here, I don't think. I mean, granted, you don't know who you're playing against, so you could see like a Corsair and think maybe that's worth keeping because if the Rattleclaw survives, turn 3 Corsair is nice, but you already have a good 3-drop. It seems a little bit risky to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we just looked at the deck list. There's not very many options for cards that Gerry can actually have. They're all mana creatures, lands, and dragons. So
yeah,
I mean, if you draw a mana creature, you're definitely putting it on the bottom, and I assume you're keeping all the lands. If you show up with another dragon, well, it's not really what you need anyway. So I agree completely. I think that you are looking for lands and lands. That's it.
Yeah. So we'll see if Gerry. It looks like he found a Caryatid, which is actually even better, since this makes Gerry's hand significantly better.
It does, but I mean, the Seeker of the Way is now actually has an opportunity to be cast, which it might not have otherwise. So he's going to be under a bit more pressure, but it looks like Brad did not find a land with his scry or his first 2 draw phases. So he's definitely going to be slowed down dramatically. The dragons aren't going to come down anytime soon, although the roars are still solid. Thoughtseize is probably one of the worst draws he could have.
Yeah, do you snap off a block here and trade for a lightning bolt, essentially?
Yeah, that's an interesting decision.
I kind of think you don't want to, because Gerry's, Brad's kind of playing face up here. He's got to have this. Basically, the only card he could have is Lightning Striker, Draconic Roar, or Wild Slash.
Yep.
And if Brad doesn't play anything else, then this turn is going so well for you. So this gives Brad an opportunity to trade when he wouldn't have been able to otherwise. But Gerry's doesn't know Brad is going to miss a 3rd land drop, so I could see that.
Well, this game has shifted quite a bit from the opening hands, where I thought Brad was very heavily advantaged based on the opening 7s. Yeah. And right now it really feels like it's all Gerry. Brad's going to want to find both a copy of Crackling Doom
and Crackling Doom and a Swamp, yeah.
which is just super far away. I mean, still 3 mana away from being able to play threats that actually can match up with these dragons.
So it looks like Gerry ran Stormbreath over Dragonlord Dramoka. I'm curious what the incentive is to do that there. It plays around a Doomblade of some kind?
Gerry doesn't know what he's up against. Right now, Brad's deck can very easily just be white-red aggro, and he can be playing around Change of the Rocks.
That makes sense. He could also, if he thinks he's playing against like a deck that's going to leave up mana for removal, you couldn't just play Dragonlord Dramoka next turn, and if Brad left mana up, then that kind of time walks him, depending on what his removal spell is.
Well, also, if let's say Brad did not, let's say he just played another Seeker of the Way, Gerry could actually monstrous the Stormbreath Dragon and come in for 13 damage.
Yeah, Brad's
Seven
not playing anything.
7 with the Stormbreath and 6 damage. Let's say he just cast a Seeker of the Way. Brad would be stuck with 6 cards in hand. Gerry had 7 mana, so
Yeah.
that Stormbreath was very threatening. So I think there's quite a number of reasons to go with Stormbreath there, and it didn't really matter what he played in the end because
Yeah, Brad never hit a third land.
mana screwed.
But didn't look like Gerry changed much post board. I mean, Gerry's board is a bunch of anti-aggro cards and a bunch of anti-control cards, and no like plummets or anything. And Brad's deck's somewhere in the middle of those two decks. I could see Nylea's Disciple if you're really worried about a red-white aggro deck, but Gerry knows that Brad is on Mardu now, actually, right? He revealed Dragon Lord Kolagon, or rather, Kolagon the Storm's Fury. So
True.
Gerry has a little bit more information, and especially given that a Mardu deck just got second at a Grand Prix, Gerry could feel like Brad's on something similar to that. You do have that information. You know, you have nothing else to go off. You might as well look at that deck list.
Right. I mean, it's not like Kolagon's been like a heavily played card in Standard, and
Yeah.
it did show up in the Ben Stark deck list. I ended up getting second place, and so, yeah, it is basically what you put your opponent on immediately.
Yeah, whereas Brad gets to board in Crux of Fate, which actually seems like a pretty nice one. If you're Brad, would you board in Anger of the Gods? It doesn't seem like it meshes with your cards that are good, like Goblin Rabblemaster, for example, but it does kill a lot of Gerry's, little mana creatures.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very powerful card if you know what you're up against, and the fact that Gerry's deck is all these mana creatures, like even having the new Mythic Shaman, Anger of the Gods quite good against Gerry's deck. I mean, he only has, I think it was 24 lands. I didn't get a great look at the list, nor did I memorize it, but that is not quite enough mana to be able to cast things like Stormbreath Dragon and Dragon Lord Atarka, let alone Dragon Lord Dramoka. And so, yeah, I mean, Anger of the Gods is a powerful strategy against ramp.
Gerry's draw is pretty good here. Brad did have the Draconic Roar into Rabblemaster, which is kind of what he wants to be. But Gerry still has a lot more ramp. There's a chance that Brad might want to go like Thoughtseize Roar here, but Rabblemaster is just too appealing, right? Like you just slam it.
Yeah, I think that when you have the opportunity to get Rabblemaster down, and then you can kind of clear the way if there's any issues with Draconic Roar next turn and Thoughtseize to really try to solidify your advantage. That's a good place to be.
What do you run out if you're Gerry here? Courser or Shaman? Well, if you're Gerry, you run out the Courser. That much is clear.
Yes, I think that there's both plays are pretty defensible. If you run out the Shaman, you're basically a lock to be able to play a Stormbreath Dragon next turn because it's unlikely you'll be able to kill both your mana creatures. Playing into something like Anger of the Gods when your opponent plays Goblin Rabblemaster is not a big concern.
Yeah, but Draconic Roar I think is the biggest concern there.
Yeah, well, the thing is, either way, you're still going to be able to cast your Stormbreath Dragon, and so not necessarily the worst place to be.
I like blocking Rabblemaster here. I think if Gerry played around Draconic Roar by playing Courser, he's just going to continue to do so.
It's just going to die. I mean, it's a 4/2 Rabblemaster.
Right. But like, if you block one of the tokens and then get your Courser roared, it seems like you're kind of in just a worse spot than last turn.
Yeah, it's close. The problem is taking the 4 damage. I mean, he's got another Courser on top. He's going to get to play Stormbreath Dragon, although you're playing against a deck that is going to have 4 Crackling Dooms, so not the most exciting to just play a Stormbreath Dragon Go either. I mean, there's no real exciting line right now for Gerry. He's very far on the back foot. Brad's hand is still quite good, and there's not going to be a lot of easy ways of stabilizing, although it turns out Brad doesn't actually have the Crackling Doom.
Yeah,
so.
That's the thing, is Brad passed up on Thoughtseize to play Regent, which actually worked out better for Brad because Gerry just had 2 Stormbreaths. And then Brad now is going to get to trade the Thunderbreak for Stormbreath. I again don't think Gerry's blocking a 1/1. I just don't think you want to get Draconic Roar that badly. And especially with, Havens and, multiple spells in your hand, you've got to feel like you're in pretty good shape here to go if the game goes longer. But Elf's going to get toasted. Gerry's probably going to get Thoughtseize at this point. I think you'd rather play Thoughtseize than Seeker. I don't know. Looks like Brad's running out the Seeker. I would have been tempted to Thoughtseize there, but I said just because Seeker is not even going to stop Courser if Gerry just plays Courser. And I really don't want Gerry to play a dragon here, but turns out Gerry's got plenty of options.
Yeah, the Thoughtseize actually wouldn't have been super great as a lot of the cards
No.
are solid in Jerry's hand.
No, Thunderbreak's a good draw. You get to Thoughtseize away the Storm Breath and play a Thunderbreak,
Yep.
which makes it a fairly even game. Though I would say Gerry has a slight advantage. He's got a life total disadvantage, but he's got more cards. I mean, between Corsair, Shaman, and Haven in play, he's got access to a lot more cards.
Yeah, Jerry's pretty far ahead. He's down in life total, but
That's about it.
Thunderbreak Corsair shuts down the entire board and can start forcing its advantage. And so, at that point, like you'd much rather have Corsair, especially if you're able to hit a couple lands off it. The Haven can get back whichever dragon is best for you, depending on what mana you have available. And even this 2/3 Shaman's going to shut down 2 Goblin tokens. So,
Yeah.
definitely not a bad place to be. Jerry's definitely ahead right now, but there are a lot of good top decks in Brad's deck, and the biggest one being Crackling Doom, I believe. Or even just like a Murderous Cut is really good.
Yeah. I think here you pretty clearly play Corsair. You're not under pressure. You'd rather just draw extra cards.
Yep.
So people are talking about Josh Utterlayton's deck. He's playing Temur, Battle Rage, Become Immense, Conifer Strider. just trying to go deep with all the berserks.
But back-to-back great draws for Brad, dragon into dragon.
Yeah. I guess Jerry's in a bit of trouble now. He gets to block Storm Breath, go to 7, draw Caryatid. I guess he gets technically Jerry's still stabilized here because he gets to next turn, not next turn, but the turn after, play a Storm Breath after using Haven of the Spirit Dragon, or play a Thunderbreak, I guess. But Storm Breath seems safer.
Yeah,
So
if he finds a land off the top, he can use the Haven to bring back a Thunder. No, he can't. Okay.
so Brad here is basically electing to throw away a Seeker for 2 points of damage here.
Yeah, that basic. Well, I guess with Corsair out, it's going to throw off the math a little bit, no matter what. Getting your opponent down to 5 when you have a Thunderbreak out that they will have to take damage to deal with if they don't block means that all your burn spells are going to be turned on, namely just Crackling Tomb, since it's not playing things like Lightning Strike or Stoke.
Yeah. So Jerry's technically not dead, and actually with a Corsair out in a second Haven, I think has the edge if Brad doesn't draw a good card in the next 2 or 3 turns here. But I mean, he's at 2 life. Like that is obviously quite dangerous.
Yeah, when he had the Courser out and was stabilized and he was at double-digit life total, things looked pretty good for Gerry. At 2
Yeah.
life, things look quite a bit worse. And having multiple Sylvan Caryatids, which are probably at least very close to the worst draw in his deck, sitting on top or drawing in a row is pretty bad.
Yeah. So Jerry gets to play all his cards this turn. I mean, he gets to play one of the Caryatids plus the Storm Breath.
Yep.
He could also
So-
just pump the Crucible, but that doesn't seem as good.
No, not when he's already going to get to play Caryatid. It's kind of the same as pumping Crucible. So
Yeah.
this brick by Brad is huge. Now if Gerry has a land on top of his library, he's pretty decent shape.
Well, even if Jerry doesn't, he still gets to play another dragon this turn, right? So like,
Right, but he's
Yeah.
at so much risk of just dying to cards.
yeah,
Like having a land on top is huge because it's 2 extra life.
the
Really
question is, did you play? You can forego the dragon for a turn and gain an extra life off the second Corsair. It turns off Draconic Roar as a way to just kill you, but it does give Brad an extra turn maybe because you don't have a Storm Breath in play that turn.
I like just playing the Corsair myself. I'm not actually sure it's right though.
Yeah. It feels like cutting off Brad's outs is pretty good, but Jerry's definitely playing a dragon this turn if he's attacking here. Brad taking the damage, both with respect to, I guess, just the fact that if Brad just doesn't want to trade, even if the monstrous wasn't a thing later, he could just draw a removal spell. I wonder if Gerry knows that Storm Breath has haste because he's doing this post combat.
I don't think we can just tell him, can we? I can text him.
Yeah, I suppose so. So Brad kind of needs to draw something this turn. Oh, there we go.
That's something. All right, so game 3.
Yeah,
That was
as it
pretty
turns
neat.
out. Yeah, that was pretty sweet. I mean, Brad drew 3 dragons and like 5 cards to win the game to win that game.
The dragon
But,
dragon draws in a row were obviously insane, but he did follow it up with like basic land
Well,
basic land to give Gerry a chance.
it was dragon,
But we're
dragon,
good.
temple to the bottom, basic land, dragon. But that's still lots of dragons.
It was mediumly dragon flooded. Gerry getting to go back to the play is pretty nice in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, if Jerry's on the play that game, he wins easily. It is debatable whether Gerry should have attacked that turn. He did give Brad more outs by attacking, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of cards Brad could have drawn that still kill Gerry, so giving him less turns to draw those cards is relevant. But with 2 coursers in play, if Gerry flips any land, he's out of the woods too. So maybe he doesn't want to attack there.
Yeah, I agree with not attacking. I think that wasn't really the best spot to get aggressive because of the advantage of the coursers and the life. That if you're able to survive a turn, especially if you're able to hit another land, even Crackling Doom is not really going to get the job done. Although then you have to play kind of crazy passive because you can't attack with either dragon next turn either. But it turned out he ended up having Thunderbreak on top of his deck. I wonder if he had played the land first and before he attacked with the Storm
Right.
Breath and saw Thunderbreak, whether he would have then just stayed back on D, knowing that next turn he can have 3 dragons, attack with 1, and the turn after that he should be at a safe enough life total that he can attack with everything, force a trade with Thunderbreak, and can't really lose to much at that point.
Well, as it turns out, Kolagon would have been problematic, I think, for Gerry. Kolagon just makes him a chump block with Storm Breath.
Yeah,
So
that's completely true.
So I think Gerry actually ends up losing that game because he goes chump block, trade, untap, play Thunderbreak Regent, chump block. I mean, assuming he wasn't able to gain more life. So it looks like Brad mulliganed here, and Gerry has another good hand. I mean, Jerry's hands are all going to look the same. This is what this deck does. All it is mana creatures, dragons, and See the Unwritten. So it's not like Jerry's getting nut draws here. His draws are, again, all going to be within a very tight band.
Yeah, he's getting the only draws his deck can get draws.
Yes. So he gets to drop Thunderbreak. That's preferable to his other plays because it doesn't die to end of turn Draconic Roar. Brad doesn't have the Crackling Doom here. Brad actually has more dragons than Gerry here. But I think Jerry's going to get to see the Unwritten, and the Unwritten is bad news for Brad here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Brad's hand has no removal spell for a dragon whatsoever. He actually doesn't even have another land to actually start casting Stormbreath Dragons, although he does have multiple turns to find it.
But, I would assume what happens is end of turn, the Shaman gets killed by Draconic Roar, but Gerry has another mana accelerant out. Then Brad untaps, plays Thunderbreak, and then Gerry untaps and casts See the Unwritten. And that's a good sequence for Gerry by, a pretty wide margin. Though, at least for Brad, he has now enough mana to cast Crux of Fate if he draws a Crux of Fate. So if he has a Crux, then he can at least make the board go back to, well, somewhat clear, though. Haven of the Spirit Dragon ×2 is a pretty big game here. All right, let's see what we get.
Spin the wheel.
And that's an Atarka. And that's a Thunderbreak Regent. All right. Yeah.
All right, so Brad has a turn to find Crux.
And even then, Gerry still keeps his Caryatids and has 2 Havens. What is seen cannot be unseen.
I'm not even sure Crux is in the deck.
Yeah. It's pretty bad if it kills your own 5-drops when you're trying to kill their 5-drops.
It's not a great place to be. Either a dash dragon chump attacking it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to go out here.
All right, so Unwritten Dragons.
Yep.
Gerry winning round 1 back-to-back weeks.
Well, he was in the finals last time. This is a pretty good start for Gerry. I mean, you don't have to actually win the league or win a week to end up in the finals here. I mean, you can, if Gerry puts up a bunch of second and third, fourth places, that's going to be enough too, presumably.
Yeah.
All right, we'll